Also, if okay. Hello and welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the episode 6 of voicED, where we are bringing four pillars of the education system together, that is, learners, parents, educators, and job creators, policymakers, professionals, to recreate, redesign, reimagine, and rethink the education system. Before I go ahead and introduce you to a wonderful panel, power packed because these are all women. So special episode today. We are going to have a minute of silence to be in the moment and gather ourselves. So welcome back. And I'm your host, Archana, trying to live a minimalist and sustainable life and trying to be on a zero outsourcing path for education, food, and well being. With my wonderful co host, Mick here. He's a mentor and creative technologist, disruptive educator who is inspiring kids from 20 different countries and have become their favorite teacher. So, welcome, Mick.
Thank
And
you so much,
we
as
are going to
always.
start. Yeah, we are going to start with our first panelist, who is Asavari Mathur. She is a self-learner, and I know her for last maybe 15 years now, or maybe more than that. She is a self-learner. She never went to school, and her parents run a beautiful self-learning space in Bangalore named Arohi. And she also founded Dhanak, which is lifestyle, natural lifestyle products. And she was so genuine in her approach that she has been sharing all the recipes, and she has been helping people to make their own products at home. So she was not a conventional business woman, but she wanted to help everyone. And the favorite quote she has is, "My life is my making." Wow, great. She doesn't have any degrees, but she has been a wonderful learner. I personally have experienced her learning throughout for last many years. What a personality she is. And currently she is interested in environmental sustainability and manifesting that through her work. And I think becoming a self learner, uh, she doesn't have any question for herself or for the system. She is on her own. So welcome, Asavari. Our next amazing panelist as a parent, she also is an educator, but then we brought her today as a parent because she is the pioneer in becoming a homeschooling family in India long back. Her children are adult now, and Vinita is a wonderful mother, mentor, and life. She has been looking at life through various different lenses, and we get her mentorship time to time, being in that circle. The favorite quote she has: "The more slowly trees grow at first, the sounder they are at the core." And I think the same is true of human beings. Henry David. Um, and she calls herself as a lifelong learner as well. Her children are adults now, and she is intrigued by human relationships, both our relationship with ourselves, other, and life and the world. She finds that growing up, learning, and developing into a wholehearted human being is shaped primarily by two processes: parenting and education. And a few weeks back, we had done a live session with her on parenting and opportunity to grow up again, which is happening for all the self-learning families. And it is my personal experience as well that we are growing up again when we put our children through the self-learning route. The question she is currently holding is, how can we really tap into the possibilities of education and parenting as a healing experience for all involved? Wow, what a deep question. Uh, our third panelist here is amazing Harini Srinivasan, and she is a naturalist and neuroscience researcher. She has been working a lot about what future holds for us, so future learning, future work, and the favorite quote she has is, what we leave in them is a much larger treasure than what we leave for them. Wow, very deep question, Harini. I think it is her own quote. That's what she shared it with me. With nearly 30 years of work experience of traversing through the corporate world in various roles, she is now focusing on transforming the way work works. Her passion is in revolutionizing education for knowledge learning and not for accumulation of degrees. And she is a crusader of zero student suicides, currently working on ways to curate immersive learning experiences and building future skills for a better life on this planet. The question she is currently holding is, does experiential learning teach you the experience, the highs and lows? And if it does, how one learn to rise from the lows? Wow. If purpose drives you, how it is that you can create your purpose? Wow, Harini. I Uh, okay, and our fourth amazing power woman here is Monica Bajaj from Bay Area. And it's 7 a.m. Right there, but on a day of like Sunday, she is been, I'm so grateful to Monica. She is a very good friend, very old friend. We come we come from our alma mater, IIT Bombay, and spent some wonderful years of our life there. She is a technology leader, and I always admire her that she has been working on different platforms, volunteering herself, mentoring, and she is always thinking about how she can contribute to the society. Very good friend of mine, and currently she is a VP of engineering at Okta and technology evangelist. Uh, Her favorite quote is, the best way to learn is to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Yes, this is the mantra of today, I think. And a very seasoned professional, as we talked, building cool products and bringing engineering, business, and strategy together. As a leader, she focuses on growth mindset, transparency, empowerment, and engineering effectiveness. She, as we already talked, that she serves on many non-profit boards and continue to share her wisdom with peers and youth. And she has been invited as a speaker on many podcasts and many shows. So she also does a lot of volunteering work at Boy Scout and believes in equal engagement with boys and girls. Two wonderful kids she has. And question she currently holds is, how can we make learning more fun rather than being in the pressure cooker model? Yes, Monica, that's why we are here. uh, you know, and the second one is, are we doing enough to give back to the society and this younger generation so that they are ready to face the world? Yes, very true, and really appreciate your thoughts there. So welcome, and I now invite Mick to start his firing questions for all the panelists. And I think first question he will have is with Asavari. So I'll bring Asavari.
Yes, thanks, Archana. And this is our first all-female panel, I'm proud to say. So as a man who was raised by strong women and who's a proud uncle of two empowered young females, I love that we have an all-female panel today, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. As always, we like to start with our learner, who, although all of everyone's voices are important, we're really talking about learners here. And they not only deserve a seat at the table, they deserve a seat at the head of the table because it is their futures that we're talking about. So, Asavari, thank you so much for joining us. Our first question that we like
Namaskaram.
to start with you is, and you are a self-learner, and so I'm sure you have some strong opinions about this. What do you think about the structure of education currently, and how do you think it benefits and/or harms learners' lives?
Um, so this is it's a very hard question because I feel like personally I cannot comment on a or a huge system because I just have a personal experience and I cannot say that it's the same for everybody in the world. But I do feel, for me personally, that the education system did not help me grow, and I went to school for up to 4 years, and after that at age of fourth standard. I left school and not been part of that system ever since. I chose not to take my degree as well because I felt like I as a child, I'm going to spend the first, let's say, 20 years of my life learning, and I'm wasting my time if I'm just spending years and years in the classroom and mugging up stuff and stuff like that. So I think it that way it really the system would have harmed me if I would have continued there, in the sense that my way of looking at life would be very different from what it is right now, and I wouldn't be so free within myself because of all the unnecessary stress pressure. And in the end of 20 years, when one goes actually to the job, they actually don't know anything. Everyone says that they learn on the job, they learn so much more over there. So what is the point of wasting 12, 20 years or whatever amount of years? Instead of that, we can have a much more joyful, and a beautiful learning experience. So that I feel that is there. Of course, in terms of benefits, I do see that especially for the rural India, I would say it is empowering a lot of people. Education is empowering a lot of people to have a better economic condition. So I don't think it's like it's a bad thing. But personally, for me, it definitely did not work, and that is why I chose to step out of it. Yes.
Great answer and great way to start. Your personal experience is very meaningful to what the points that we're trying to make here, which is that you have had your own path to freely create your own learning outcomes based on your interests and not confined by or constricted by the system that doesn't want individuality like you've developed. It wants to
True.
put out, conformed people who can create the same work in the same way with the same results. And that's not the path you've chosen. And the results are right here in front of us. That's an amazing answer and a great way to start out. Thank you so much. And our parent is our second question that we ask each week. So Vinita, I have noticed as an educator that there's just a lot more what I call helicopter parenting in this current generation of parents. And why do you think parents have become more obsessive and protective about parenting, especially in this current generation of parents, in your opinion?
Yeah, thank you for the question. First of all, thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to meet you all and meet all the viewers and listeners. Um, so, in terms of parents becoming protective and obsessive about parenting, I feel, one of the things that I often think is that we have been basically, we want to give the best to our children always, and we want to give them better than what we got. We want them to succeed in life, and we want them to be happy. All those things that anyone can want for oneself, we want it better for our children. Um, and we also believe that we have we have got the best while growing up. Our parents did the best. If we are successful, we feel we are successful because of what we got from the society and from the system. And if we don't succeed, we feel we could not make the best use of what we got. But we never pause and look at what was our own experience. Was it nurturing for us? Did it really allow us to grow? Of course, it allowed us to grow in various ways, but as people, in our heart, in our experientially, did it allow us to grow? We do not have the freedom, even the freedom to ask that question of ourselves.
Mm.
And then we want the best for our children and we want to give them more of what we got, which we have never examined, which we have never reflected on. And the obsession about it grows. We become very protective about it. We become very, we feel that they can do better than us if we give them more of what we got and earlier than when we got it. And as a result, we are pressurizing children to, to grow before they're biologically and intellectually ready to grow to that extent. and it becomes like a pressure cooker situation. It's almost like, opening the egg of a chick when the chick is trying to come out of the egg. In our attempt to help the chick, we break open the shell, and we disable the chick to live its life properly, to develop its beak properly, to develop its wings to fly. And that's what is happening today.
Mm.
It's coming from a very right place, but it's also coming because we have not examined and reflected on the entirety of the situation, the human condition that we have been in.
I
That's
love
what
that, Vinita. Actually, like I believe in what you're saying, all parents have this similar desired outcomes for their kids. The differences in the approach or the tools that they have at their disposal to best provide that for their kids. And if they did not have a wonderful upbringing or parents who instilled these sense of independence and freedom in them, how would they know how to pass that on to their own children?
yeah.
Right. And so
Yes.
the kind of the experiences you grew up with are often the experiences that you will provide for your kids, for better or for worse. But the important thing being the outcome desired is the same for all parents. It's what
Yes.
tools do they have at their disposal to get their kids to that finish line or to those desired outcomes. I think that's the big difference I notice. In their hearts, they all want the same thing for their kids.
Yeah.
So they just have a better way of eliciting or providing a pathway for those than other parents do.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, very, very insightful first answer. Thank you so much for that. Um, we are now on to our educator, Harini. So nice to meet you. So this was when I was a guest on here. These are the questions I got to answer, Harini. So I very much enjoyed answering these, and I hope you will as well. The first one is, what are the things that you love about education in its current form, and what are the things that you hate or at least strongly dislike about education in its current form?
Oh, that's an interesting question to start with, because I think the answer is the same for both the parts of the questions, I would say, because what I really love about the current education system in the form that it is in is there is a very strong emphasis on peer learning, in the sense schools say that children have to come to the classroom to study, which is great, because what I noticed during the almost 2 years of lockdown is that students were missing out on the peer learning, the joy of peer learning, the joy of nudging each other in the classroom, probably cracking a joke at the teacher, which is all right, because it just energizes each other. So those are great things that happen in a physical classroom. So peer learning is something that I really love about the current education form. At the same time, I think looking at peer learning, somewhere we've forgotten to build in collaboration, which actually can be leveraged from peer learning. Instead, the system is designed in a way that competition has been built in. So while I love the whole concept of coming together, sitting in a classroom, learning together, what I hate about it is, while we are learning together, why are we still in a system that is designed to not leverage on each other, but probably compete with each other? So if peer learning is what we are doing, I love that, and I also hate that it is driving competition rather than collaboration. So I'm kind of sitting on the wall on what do I do with peer learning. So if that's an
Yeah,
answer, then back to
that's
you.
a great perspective that I haven't heard in the answers to that question before. You know, basically what most kids will answer that have been involved in the education system when they're answering something similar is they love the social element, as you were
Yep.
saying. They love being
Yes.
with their peers, but we
Yes.
almost pit them against each other and make them think that
Yes.
their
Yes.
competition is not within themselves to better themselves along the pathway, but rather to compete with the person to their left and right. And so we don't do enough to
Absolutely.
support their social emotional learning, their soft social skills in general, to teach them the importance of collaboration. We kind of just
Exactly.
throw them into
Exactly.
the water and say kick and swim the
Exactly.
best that you can.
Yeah, and
And
what are we? Since I also did many years in the corporate world, what I'm also seeing that is, what is it that we're gifting to the corporate world is a bunch of individual solo competitive players. But what
Yes.
what corporate really needs, probably they themselves sometimes don't realize, is we need people who know and work in collaboration so that the organization's goals can be achieved. And that's where the problem happens. We don't really focus on that transition of moving away from competition and moving towards collaboration. So we're actually gifting the wrong kind of individuals to the corporate world.
Very well put. Very well put, Harini. I
Yes.
really love that, Yeah, so
That's a great take on it, definitely. And of course, my answer was like I dislike pretty much everything, and I like almost nothing. So I love that you found something to really love that balances out your view of it. Because I think I spend so much time disliking the things that I have to teach and the way that I have to teach them that I often forget there are amazing teachers working in there, amazing families, and the kids getting to collaborate with each other. So thank you for reminding me of those things as an educator as well, Harini. Monica is our job creator this week. And of course, our panelists have wide ranging skills and abilities, and some of them could have been multiple pillars during this conversation. But for today, at least, Monica, as an employer or someone who can provide the role of a livelihood through employment, do you prefer degrees or skills when deciding who you're going to hire in these all important positions?
So before I answer this question, Mike, I'm already, immersed in this conversation. I have to say this is my first, but Vinita, Asavari, and Harini, what they stated, it's so true. And that was one of my, you will hear in my conversation later also, because I face this personally as well in my job and around me. But we can talk about it during our conversation. But coming back to your question, at certain point in time, the degrees were important because corporates had to evaluate on a certain criteria, similar to what kids are doing SAT and ACT here, like just to get into universities. Now, whether that is one test defines everything, definitely not. The way I look at personally, if you would have asked me like 20 years back, I would say, yeah, you need to have a degree, you need to go to good school, all those things were because that was ingrained. But today, as an employer, having been in the corporate world for so long, it's the skill-based learning is really, really important. So I have seen people, especially, being in software, you don't need a degree to be a really good programmer.
Not at all.
So, not at all, right? So basically, and it is really important that you look for those skill-based learnings. That's one thing. You also look for the person, when you hire them, how that person can take the team to the next level. So basically, blending with the team, having those values. So my questions when I interview people, I definitely focus a lot on their core values and ask them to give examples. It can be from a personal experience, it can be a professional experience. That tells me that how this individual is going to help out to take to the team to the next level. Because you want a fun, more thriving, more learning. I mean, we are all learning every day, no matter where we are and what level we are. So I think that is really, really important. So for me personally, if I had a choice, definitely degrees are not important for me.
Yeah, that's great. I agree with you 100%. The most talented young coders that I know are all self-taught. They didn't learn it at school. No one told them to start doing it. They started on their own, and they're brilliant at 16 and 17. They should be making six figures at a job, and they certainly don't need a degree for it. Imagine if we were offering those same self-guided pathways in other disciplines aside from programming, how much kids could achieve at a young age without ever even thinking about college in their future. Just how do I want to change the world when I grow up? So I love
Exactly.
that, skills besides those, though, as well as you were mentioning, how they relate to people and what they can bring to the table from a personal standpoint. Not just can you program, but what kind of person are you? Your human communication skills equally, if not more important. So,
And I have
and also Monica, I think including IT, I right now I can see only like medical and lawyer, like law field. Other than that, I don't see any other field where degree should matter actually,
Yeah,
because they
companies are changing their perspective. I would say it's not everywhere. There is still, and the job descriptions are being tweaked a little bit. Like, don't put X number of years of experience or X degree, right? So things are changing, but it is going to take some time, I would say.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's excellent. Great start. Great first round, everybody. As you now you see why for Archana and I every week is just like a breath of fresh air of conversation with our amazing panelists. So thank you, ladies, for that first round. We are back to Asavari, our amazing learner. So you are a self-learner, which by nature is non-competitive. When we've already kind of touched on that. But for you personally, are discipline and motivation needed? How do you keep yourself growing and self-motivated?
I think the key to that I have understood is that if I do something that I'm really passionate about, something that I'm involved in, something that I'm doing out of my own willingness and not because anyone else is asking me to do it, then naturally I find ways to be disciplined, to be motivated. I mean, motivation is not even needed if I am doing it out of my own interest, and of course the discipline. And naturally that growing keeps happening because I want to do it. And when I want to do it, if I make mistakes or things are not going right, I want to learn and go ahead. But saying that, I always say that as a self-directed learner, it's not like it's easy. It's not like it's all roses, right? There are lots of thorns also on the plant. And it is tough. There are days when you would go down. There are days where the discipline or the schedule, or even if you want to do it, things will go totally out of place. So, and it's like living a regular life, and anyone's life there are ups and downs, so that is definitely there. And there are days when you feel like you don't want to, you're not growing or you're stagnant or things like that. So I've experienced that, but I feel because I know that I am doing what I want to do, the motivation to pick myself up and go back to what I'm doing is easier than when somebody is putting it as a force. Yeah.
Wonderful.
This is one, we talk about how different our answers are each week to same questions. This is one area from the self-learners where there's a common thread each week that I love. And this is my favorite question to ask of you, because this is something I believe deep in my heart. If you are choosing something you love to do, motivation, passion, determination, those are not a factor. Those are only
True.
difficult to pull out of you when someone is asking you to be a passive learner of things that they've chosen as important to you. And I love that each week our self-learners are like, I choose to do this, so I love it. Enough said. Of course, there's those ups and downs, and you build your own resilience through that. But I just love that common thread from our self-learners of, I love doing this. The motivation part of it is quite easy. Thank you so much. That's always my favorite question to ask of our self-learners, for the reason you just answered. Excellent, excellent. Back to our parent, Vinita. Your second round question has some similarities to the first, I think, because it's something that is so noticeable in this current generation of parents. But what do you think scares parents, and why do you think many of them force their own expectations onto their kids?
Yeah, you know, I I always say that in this time and age, it's very difficult to be a child, but it's even more difficult to be a parent. And the challenges we have, right? Uh, the life is changing so fast. What we experienced when we were growing up, nothing of that gives us answers to what is coming up. And excuse me, yeah. And we are our values, our beliefs, the experiences we have held, everything is being challenged on everyday basis. And that's very scary. That's There's a lot of fear around, what will happen about our own future, right? We feel what will happen tomorrow. There's so much of aggression. Look at the world, what's happening, these wars, these so many different kinds of things that are happening. COVID, the nature is telling us, nature is really putting us in our own place. our place in the larger scheme of things. We always thought we are the supreme, but we know what we are today in the larger scheme of things. This corona has really shown us our place in that sense. And it's very uncertain. The uncertainty, the insecurity, the fear is very much there around us everywhere. And so the leaders are operating out of fear. The companies are operating out of fear. We as parents are operating out of fear. And it's like, it's very challenging. So instead of pausing and looking at our fear again, I said in the first question also that if we pause and look at what's happening, if we pause and look at from where this fear is coming, what's happening around us, are we being a part of the solution or are we being a part of the problem? What are the kind of solutions which are sustainable, which are, sensitive to humanity as well as to this planet? We we have not been trained, or we have not had the opportunity to pause and look at all these questions when we were growing up. And we do not do that even today. And so we operate from that place when it comes to our children, because our future is just 20, 30, 40 years, but our children are just beginning to grow. So it gets multiplied. Our fear about our children gets multiplied. And that's from where we operate with our children. That's my sense of the things. And if we can pause and look at the reasons, if we can allow our children to grow, if we feel connected to ourselves, then we can connect to our children. Then we can allow our children to grow while keeping that connection with their own core self, by being sensitive, sensing the world, operating in the world from the meaning they make out of their experiences, the meaning they make out of themselves, and then they grow up into people who can pause and think and reflect. So this is a cycle like that for and a big one.
Yeah.
So that's the fear that's very palpable in and around us at this point of time. I hope I've
I
answered.
could not agree more, Vinita. I made a series of parenting videos, and it's called "Fear is the Enemy," because I think most of what's happening right now is rooted in fear, and there's not a collective knowledge among parents, or something that's shared with them that allows them, first of all, to confront that fear in a way that gives them solutions. Right? They're just kind of doing the best that they can in a silo with their own kids, and there's not enough of a collective knowledge shared amongst parents or educators or all of the pillars together to provide that pathway forward in what is a very scary time to be alive for kids. But I couldn't agree more that it's based in fear, and
Yeah.
and there are solutions to that, but none are being provided at scale for parents currently, and it makes it a tough time to be a parent.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and this providing solution, more than providing solution, it's about opening up our own imagination, opening up our own thinking, our own relationship with ourselves and our own experience. And that is something which, as a society, is like, it has to happen at a very deep level. And it's a huge task, it's a Herculean task.
Yeah,
Just didn't
really.
want to go into the spiritualism, but Vinita, your statement and every other parent, what we have in the panel, they talked about this fear. And in Gita, there is a saying, I would explain you later, but Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi is a first verse from the chapter 16 of Gita, which says that Abhayam means fearlessness is the leader of all the qualities you want to bring in yourself. If fearlessness comes, then every other quality comes automatically, and the other way around also true. Like, if you are fearful, then many of the qualities what you have will, fade away because of the fear. So very well. I think I couldn't stop myself. Make sorry about that, but
No, not at all. I tell my kids the same thing. Like, being brave doesn't mean that you're not fearful. It means that you push forward anyways.
yeah.
So it's not even about not having fear. It's about confronting it and, you know, going through anyways. That's where being brave comes from. So I couldn't agree more. Those are some great points. Harini, this was my favorite one to answer as an educator, which is, if you had the authority to design your own learning space, your own school environment, what does that look like? What would you do if you were the designer?
Absolutely. And I think well, I'm also a design thinker, so any solution that I really come up with for any problem that exists, I go back to the end user, and that's where the best solutions come from. So I would go back and ask the students, the learners, the children, uh, what is it that they want to achieve in the next 90 days. Okay. And it'll be great to hear from them and let them achieve that. So probably ask children to set their own goals for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year, whatever, and help them to achieve those goals. And believe me, this is doable. A lot of people think this is revolutionary and radical, but I can tell you from my experience, many years ago, decades ago, when I started schooling, my first day in kindergarten, my first question to my class teacher was, when are you going to take me to the library? Okay. So my first day in school, and my teacher was shocked, and she said, library? You don't even know how to read and write. I said, that's precisely the point. My goal here is to go to the library. So you're going to help me to read and write. And me as a 4-year-old, if I could say that, and I didn't go to any play school, I didn't go to school as a toddler, which is very, very common in India. I wasn't sent to any of those. I was allowed to enjoy my childhood the way I wanted to be till I got into normal school. I did just 1 year of kindergarten, not multiple preschool and all of that. I enjoyed my childhood actually. Yet I had clarity in my mind that I'm going to school with a purpose, right? My purpose is to learn. So if I had that clarity on day one as a 4-year-old, and I'm a normal human being, I'm sure the kids today who are much smarter will know what they want. And I think the best way is to ask them, what's your goal? There's this very typical question that parents ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think if we, as parents, as educators, if we ask this question with a lot of seriousness and encourage the child to come up with a constructive answer and move in a progressive manner, I think that kind of learning will be something where the child is able to draw his or own learning path and then a career path, and in at the end of this actually design his or her own life, right? So drawing your own learning path, drawing your own career path completely takes you away from peer pressure, and you end up doing emerging as a better person than I was yesterday, right? That's what we're trying to do. So if I had the ability to design curriculum, I would say go back to the end user, who is the learner himself or herself, and ask them to set goals, short term goals, mid-term goals, long-term goals, and let them design the curriculum. And definitely every child knows that it's important to be literate. So definitely the child would say, I want to learn to read and write. There goes. You made a great starting point. Once the child knows how to read and write, the child can and should be allowed the opportunity to explore, find out what is it that I want to be when I grow up. And we're not talking about professions, we're not talking about designations, we're not talking about job titles. What is it that I want to be when I grow up is a very philosophical question, and I think it's important for us to build a system where learners are able to think philosophically and come up with an answer. I was asked, and I said, I want to be a good human being. I want to make people around me happy. Now, I had a plethora of job opportunities in front of me, but as a child, I did not pick up a profession. I think my dream education system would encourage students to think philosophically to answer this question, craft their own career path, their own learning journey, decide on what is it that I want to learn, what is it that I want to achieve in the next 90 days or so, and set on that path. And then, yeah, it's my career path, it's my life. So, it's my book and I write my own book. So, no complaints about the system, no complaints about what's going wrong with me. I think victim mindset will kind of find no place. And that's what I think. Yeah, but it's a lot of people say this is revolutionary, but yeah, that's what I think.
You just reminded me in one answer why I liked being a creative tech teacher versus a classroom teacher teaching academic subjects. I could ask kids what they wanted to learn and how, allow them to choose what projects they did. And my goal every day was to ask more questions than I answered. Why
A
did you
teacher
choose this? Why
should
do you
be
do
able
that?
to.
Show me how you did that. And they
Yeah.
absolutely, that's why they was their favorite class. They were given
Absolutely.
agency and
Absolutely.
choices.
I think a teacher should be able to play to the gallery. You don't
Yeah.
go with a script, you have to play to the gallery.
And Harini, to put your thoughts into just one thing is that I always ask parents that ask them what you want to create in this world. That will give a lot of imagination to them. It will be like constructive imagination rather than reproductive imagination of looking at around and see what they want to do, what they want to be, what they want to create will.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is something. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Very well said,
Uh,
Rachna.
you just made me wish that I was back in my creative tech teaching days versus teaching the academic subjects for exactly what you just said. And that was very nostalgic. Your answer gave me a lot of nostalgia. Thank you for that. Back to Monica. Monica, your second round question. What skills, aptitudes, qualities do you think current college grads are missing in terms of future of work? Like, what skills are they short of with just having that all important piece of paper degree that they earn from top universities? What are they missing?
So, being a mom of a college student right now, I can tell you, and in general, I meet so many students. My early on career was in, teaching for 4 years when I started my career. But I go back and compare. One thing has happened, big change is the social media. There are pros and cons of social media, but I can tell you, the more social media is taking over, the concept of people having social skills is going away, and that's a big challenge. No matter where the technology goes, the social skills, the interpersonal skills are really, really important. So when it comes to what skills I'm looking, most of the times it is communication. It's really important, whether you are having communication at home, communication at work. And COVID has definitely, with COVID and being remote, it has impacted much more for a lot of people. Some people have come together, some people had more opportunities to know each other deeper. So that has been really important. So that's important. Then critical thinking is really important. How do you analyze things? How do you put them in perspective? How do you relate them in your real life? How do you tell a story? Because stories, for ages, right? If you go back to, centuries, the storytelling is the most powerful mechanism of getting your point across. And there are books now written in art of storytelling, and corporate world, leaders are using that as a part of their, when they have to present. So it's really, really important. Um, Empathy is really important. Putting yourself in other people's shoes is really, really important to understand the perspective and not just asking for, like, I want this. So that is there. The other one is not having a habit of instant gratification. People want things very fast, even as adults. Like, I have been like a culprit of certain times. I mean, I'll be honest here, is like asking my kids to do more because I feel like, hey, if I could do it, you could do it because you have a better foundation. But truly, that's not the case. Every individual is different. So having that habit of instant gratification all across the board has to stop. Um, the other one is, I would say, having self control, being self aware at all moments, no matter what, that helps you build self confidence, who you are. And there are a lot of ways to become that. And I learn a lot from my kids, younger people around me when they come up with their perspective, like how to thrive. And then the last one I want to call out is the world has gone digital. And if we want to make the max use of it, like, I mean, we all are here today. I don't think I would, I mean, I knew Archana, I did not know you or Harini or Asavari or Vinita. I'm learning so much. So there are like, you can take the best of the best as well, rather than basically, lacking that information. So those are really important things to be aware about.
Not one of those all important skills you just mentioned are a part of regular traditional education, pretty much in
Exactly.
any way at all. And
Hmm.
I agree with you. Like the thing you touched on really that struck me is a give take between young people and educators or just older people in general. They can teach us so much about tech. It's natural to them. What we have to offer them, the best thing we have to offer them, interpersonal communication skills. We had to talk face to people. We had to look people in the eye. We had
Hmm.
to, learn how to speak publicly, things that are being lost quickly because of social media, as you very correctly pointed out. And I just think that's would be such a great starting point is let's teach them our interpersonal communication skills that we have an abundance of, and in exchange, allow them to feel empowered by showing us how all this tech works and go, wow, I taught my mom or my teacher or some other adult that I respect. I taught them something, and how empowering that would be to these young people and the respect given to them for that knowledge. So I love all those skills you mentioned, and we're not teaching kids any of them, and it's just a shame. Um, Okay, our last round, and we are back to Asarawi. This one is, for your third question, what do you need from the other three pillars involved here to feel more empowered, more supported in your self-learning journey?
So, sorry, my answer would be that acceptance. That's the only thing that comes to me. Personally, in my journey of being a self-directed learner, one of the biggest things that has supported me um, is the acceptance for what I'm doing, is the acceptance of the path I'm choosing, and just the acceptance with the freedom to be who I
Mm.
want to be and to accept me for who I am. So as a parent, as an educator, or even the people who are hiring me, if they can accept me for who I am rather than seeing it from a box of any of the prejudice that we learn in the society, then it becomes much more easier to be a self-directed learner. Otherwise, there's too much pressure of money or of status or so many other things around that does not then give me the freedom, and then there's a lot of self-doubt then, and then that creates a lot of inner trouble. But if I'm accepted for who I am, then it gives me a lot of space to grow and to become better.
You encapsulated it perfect. Give me the freedom to be who I am and accept me for who I am. Very, very well put. What a
Beautiful.
great way to close out your third one. Um, Loved it. Vinita, for your third one, for your third round question, what kind of child, um, as a parent, what goal did you have for what kind of child you give to the world, and what role do you think that parents play in general in their child's learning journey?
Yeah, I think as a parent, very often, I would like to tweak this question a bit. Am I allowed?
Of
Yeah,
course.
sure.
Okay. So as a parent, I might want to give to the world a child as per what I have lacked in my life.
Mm.
So I would like to tweak the question a bit into what kind of a child world needs today. And as a parent, do I have that in me to bring that child up in that way? So I think and in India especially, I don't know in your country, Mick, how it works. but in India, the education system is very much focused on rote learning, a lot of information. But there are some very good places coming up who are breaking away, and there's a good number of those places over the years. But still, the mainstream system is rote learning and just reproducing memory, uh, and a lot of control by external factors. And that's what we see, which is being manifested in the world today. So, what kind of a child this world needs is a child who is observant, who is open, who can perceive the things as they are, who can question what doesn't sit right with the child, who is not afraid of rocking the boat, who can who is not afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes is a stepping stone for learning. Mistake is not something to be punished for. If I don't make mistakes, I don't learn anything new. And who is, very creative, compassionate, courageous, who is you can look at all these adjectives which are enabling and empowering. And that is what we want our children. That is what we need. That's the need of the hour. And what is my role in that as a parent is, as a parent, doesn't matter what I say. What my child absorbs and soaks in is who I am, how I'm living my life. Am I all those things? And am I okay to question myself when I'm not those things? And how curious, how compassionate, how empathetic, how courageous I am. Do I question wrongs in and around me? So, as a parent, all we can do is be that, model that life for children so that they absorb it. So, how do we create a community, a village? Like it's saying all over the world that it takes a village to raise a child. So, how do we become that village in which the child is raised from those values, from that lifestyle, from that strength of character and strength of, one's own capacities, capabilities. And it's not about doing the right things all the time. It's about, am I open to pause and question myself and change myself, to accept what's not going well and change myself? And that's the openness.
I love that. And our common threads we're seeing here are skills that we want kids to have, things that parents want to instill in their kids, and we're missing the mark so badly. And we're so capable of doing all of these things, and we're just not, through the education system at least, we're just not. And it's just so clear through all of your answers, from what the learner wants to what the parents trying to do to what skills the job creator's looking for, and we're missing it completely and entirely. Not we, but collectively, systemically as a whole, just missing the mark completely. And it's just sad. Thankfully, all of your answers give us hope that we can do better. Thank you for that, Vinita. And Harini, your third question, similar to for our learner, what support as an educator do you need from the other three pillars?
Very simple. What I need from the other three pillars is an outcome oriented approach towards education, and not a task oriented or an input oriented approach. So as learners, I expect learners to start looking at what is the outcome they want to achieve through their learning pathways. I would love to have parents also look at that perspective, not look at what kind of courses the child is taking, what kind of degrees the child is going to get, but what's the outcome? What kind of child that you really want to see? What difference is that child going to make to people around, to the planet, to the universe? And that's something which is an outcome orientation, which I would love to see. And even when it comes to employers, job creators, policymakers, whoever it may be, I think they also should, I would expect them to start looking at an outcome oriented approach and replace job descriptions with purpose of why a particular role is being created in that organization and how that purpose is aligned with the larger purpose of the organization. So all of these things are outcome orientation. The moment you start looking at, giving things an outcome perspective, you don't look at what are the tasks or the inputs that go in. So it gives a very long term view of things, and that's the support that I seek.
This conversation just keeps getting better every round. You ladies are just stepping it up. Like everything is, I'm like, yes. Yet I just find myself nodding along with you pretty much throughout everyone's answers.
It's so reassuring that there are so many like-minded people in this world, and we're all getting connected.
Very true. Monica, for your third round, job creators in general are an important part of this whole formula, because at the end of the day, they're the ones offering a secured livelihood for people at the end of this learning journey. What do you feel that you need from the other three pillars in order to best provide those opportunities?
So I would say, as everybody mentioned, I think goals are really, really important. Short-term goals, long-term goals, whatever works for parents, kids, that's really important. And I think that conversation has to happen between the parents and the kids. Parents need to understand where the kid is coming from. And we all face this battle, I'll be honest. But we as parents, we also have to change our understanding as the world is moving. So that's really important. From a learner's perspective, I would love to have learners and educators both create platforms that can have love of learning and not being forced to learn. That's really important. If learning can become non-competitive, imagine the world is going to be so, so beautiful. So that's really important. For parents specifically, I have a lot to say. And being a parent, I have faced this personally, at times when I've been raising kids, is parents need to understand one thing which was ingrained in me when I was growing up as a kid was learning is one thing. The more you share, the more it grows. And unlike right now, what is happening is parents feel that if I share something which I know, the chances of getting, for my kids is going to be less into some place, right? And they need to understand that your kid is competing with the entire world, not with a small group of community or neighborhood or. So I live in the Bay Area. A lot of Asian community, Indian communities is there. And that's why my question was more around pressure cooker model, because I think it comes from there. And while parents need to provide the guidance to their kids, they should also gauge their interests. So the way we look at it is like, okay, like my son, right? He was interested in scouting. So, okay, how can I find an opportunity for you to get? So basically, as Harini pointed out, right? The goal is there. I want to go to the library. I want to make sure you want to go to the scouting. How can I find the avenue for you so that you can be a part of that scouting? That's what we should be doing. Structured education system is there, which is fine. Some people like that, which is totally fine. But as long as you are learning what is going to thrive you, and also having those creative outlets for kids is really, really important as well, not just like in a structured box. So we also need our creative outlet. This is one of our creative outlets where we are all talking and, learning from each other. So everybody needs it. That's where I would go.
Well, I just have to say, I keep thinking with each episode, like it can't possibly get better than the last episode that we did. And it just, every time we just keep building upon what we've already, acknowledged, discussed, and learned from each other. And this was no exception, ladies. An excellent panel. I'm inspired by all of you and all of your answers in so many ways. Now it's time for your final exam for Miss Archana. So I'm going to turn the reins back over to her. Good luck. Remember that she will be tough on you in your lightning round questions. So do not say you were not warned. Best of luck. Archana, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Nick always makes me villain, So because everyone fears the exam. So, okay,
I
okay.
don't believe in exams. I'm going.
Yeah, but it was amazing to listen to each one of you. And as Mick said, it's getting better each and every episode. We are like, moving forward. So, okay, let's start our rapid fire round. And I might have some surprise question as well. So, first question for all of you. There are some common questions. First question for all of you, and anyone can go in any order. They can just start. In one sentence, we need to know what you want to start, stop, and continue in the current education system.
I'll go first. I want to start mentoring, stop teaching, which means I will add value from my experience, from my success stories, and from my personal failures as well, and help students learn. So I want to start mentoring and stop teaching. And what I want to continue is use the social structure that is there in the education system and encourage peer learning in the right way. So that's something that I really want to continue. But I definitely want to stop teaching and start mentoring.
Definitely. Asavari?
Okay, start interest driven learning, stop academic driven learning, and continue the diversity of fields or careers that are available to a person.
Wonderful. Monica?
I can go next. So in terms of starting, I want to have skill-based forums and not based on age or grade. That's really important. Stop education being commercialized and not being affordable for a lot of people around us. And continue the way the learning is accessible now all across the world, and pandemic has taught us. So let this continue so that everybody can learn from everywhere across the world.
Yeah, great. Vinita?
Yeah. So I want to start a learning scenario, a growing up scenario where there is a freedom of choice, action, and expression. I want to stop this top down approach of parenting as well as education. And what I want to grow is, this collective community learning, creating that village which raises a child and raises the whole generation, which then raises this world.
Wonderful. One thing you have unlearned or you want to unlearn in your life?
I can go, Archana.
Yeah.
And I learned it, I would say, 15 years back. Not worry about grades. And this was my learning this was my learning in IIT with one of the professors. So definitely unlearn about grades. Not worry about grades.
Harini?
Yeah, I think for me also, I think it's very similar to that, and I've already started unlearning and unlearn quite a bit. Uh, Unlearn to work or study for a reward, right? I want to completely unlearn that.
Great. Vinita?
Yeah, for me, I want to, like, it has happened with me over the years, growing up with my own children, growing up with all of you in this community, that unlearn the need for perfectionism. Perfectionism is so limiting, and it limits us from really experimenting, taking risks, and learning new things.
Great.
And
Asavari?
Yeah, I think mine is similar. I think unlearn the fear of failure.
Yes. Great. Okay. If you all were to write a book, autobiography, fiction book, anything, what the title would be?
Yeah, I'll go for this first. I've already thought about it. The title, no, my biography is already on its way. Someone has been kind enough to write my biography, and it's called Anamika, the Resilient Spirit. But there are many things I've not disclosed over there. So and I am a strong believer in empathy. So the title of my book will be "If I Were You."
Mm. Wow. Asavari?
My life, my path.
My life, my path. Wow. Monica or Vinita, who wants to go?
I can go. It's a very tough one, Archana. I'll tell you. And I don't have all those, the way everybody else presented. But the book is going to be more around, I would say the title will be Learning and Sharing with Fun and No Fear.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So for
Vinita.
me, yeah, for me, I've almost written three-fourth of it. And right now, the title in my mind is Learning from the University of Life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. Okay. Name three life skills in just one word, three life skills, which are must have.
Empathy, resilience, and fearlessness is my pick.
Mm. Yeah.
So mine will be communication, interpersonal skills, empathetic, and mentally strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Vinita.
Yeah, for me, it's self-awareness, compassion, and empathy, and communication skills, of course.
Mm-hmm. Asavari.
For me, it is the ability to take care of my physical self, my mental and emotional self, and my spiritual self.
Okay. Wow. Great. Again, in one word, what is the meaning or like what happiness means to you and what success means to you?
For me, success is happiness, and happiness is success. So the answer is in the
Okay.
question.
Did you listen to our episode one where Mick intelligently combined this question into one?
That was my answer too. That sounds like Harini hit it right on the nose. That was perfect. I agree.
Yeah.
There can't be a better definition to success than happiness. If I'm happy, I'm successful. That's it.
That is true. That is true. I was thinking, but then I was following the rules what Archana said, it's like these
I
are
break
two
all the
different things.
rules.
We are
Following the
here to
rules.
break all the rules.
Yeah. So I can
Guilty.
I can tell you, like, for me, success defines is when I'm capable enough to be able to serve others and learn from others. For me, that is a success means.
Beautiful.
And for me, happiness means good health, physical and mental. That
Yes.
is really important.
Great. Asavari?
So for me, successful means fulfillment, inner fulfillment, and happiness means inner joy.
Mm. Okay. Looking inward.
Yeah. So
Vinita.
for me, success means to have the capacity to embrace with equanimity whatever life brings up, and happiness means trust in self, others, life, and in this universe. I would have given the answer Harini gave, but she stole my answer already. So she went another one.
That was
Yeah,
the
many
strength
of
we
us
were going.
relate to that. I think many of us relate to that. That is very common. It's like, anyway. So the last question for like common for all of us is what common practice or belief as a collective, community, or world we want to unlearn?
I can One thing which I want to learn as in a community is fear of failures and trying to fit in, because we
Yeah.
try to fit in quite a bit in this whole box, and we think like if we don't fit in we will fail across the board. So that's what I would like to unlearn.
Great.
Yeah, and my answer is an extension to what Monica said. There were two things which I would say. One is fear of failure, of course, and I completely resonate with what Monica said. The second one is fear of consequence. We're afraid of whatever it is. We're afraid of a consequence. We're afraid of people judging us based on what an outcome would be, what a consequence would be. So I think eliminating these two fears. So I'm adding one to what you said, Monica.
Yeah. Asavari?
I think it's when I would like to unlearn that joy comes from outside, from materialistic things.
Yeah. Vinita?
I think the the whole thing about competition, shift from competition to competence
Yeah.
within ourselves.
And just to test your observation skills, we have put some words on the poster where we want to transition from one side to another one. And where do we want to transition from leadership to question mark? Who answers that?
Laddership.
Okay.
It's right there in front of me.
That was
It's
quick.
there.
That was quick. That one takes
Great.
longer sometimes, surprisingly.
Yeah. And where do we want to transition from consumption to
Creation.
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 Great. Okay. So I have one question each for like each of you. And for learner, what's your favorite time pass?
Art and being in nature.
Okay. For parent, one thing your children hate most about your parenting style.
Many. But but it's like, sometimes I get very fixated with ideas, and then they say, okay, hold on, mama, wait. And also, sometimes I come to conclusions very fast. So those are
Okay.
two things for which I often get a pushback.
Yeah. And for Harini is one thing you absolutely hate, but still you do it on a regular basis as an educator.
Yeah, I'm absolutely guilty of still having to conduct assessments and grading students. I found out ways to bring in peer assessments and grading, so at least students don't feel the pressure. But I'm still compelled to abide by that system as long as I'm doing the role of an educator.
Grading is the topmost, right? Like this is a common answer for like many
My
of
answer
them.
was the same. My answer was the same. I remember
Nick-
being asked in my interview, how much do you care about grades? And I said, as much as you're going to force me to. If you're asking me honestly, I don't care about grades at all. But I know
Nick,
that you have
looks
to give
like
them
you
and I
have
will.
you have half my brain there with you. You're saying almost the same things.
Okay. And for Monica is one absolutely must-have skill which you can't compromise when you are hiring.
I always look for a person who is a culture fit, who can take the team to the next level with everything what they bring on board.
Great. Wonderful.
A
And
lot
I
of,
think,
lot of peer learning. A lot of
yeah,
peer learning, what Harini said.
we didn't realize this is the longest episode we had. I think power pack woman panel, so it had to go long.
It was
By
necessary and it didn't feel longer. It just felt,
Yeah.
more powerfully answered in all the rounds of questions. So
And
I want to thank you all personally. Like your answers, your input, your thoughts and ideas are inspiring to me. And I learned a great deal from all of you. And I just want to personally thank each and every one of you for your contributions to this amazing conversation. Thank you.
and sorry, Mick, you are stuck in between. Even on the screen, you see like you are just surrounded by everyone of us.
I do not mind at
Thank you
all.
for having us. Thank you for having us. And
Yeah.
I'm really, this is such a great start for me for like in the morning to meet and learn so much. The words are still in my mind and my heart. They have touched my heart today, I'll tell you. And Vinita ji, I really, really enjoyed, Harini, you came with practical aspects and Asavari came from the inside part. So Thank you so much for teaching me so many things today.
Yeah, thanks again. It's wonderful, we are so grateful, Mick and I. You found out time and patiently waited for us to come get back to you. And thanks a lot again for your time and so deep and insightful, you know, um, uh, conversation and your inputs to the system or to the new way of education we are trying to create together. And I am also grateful to my amazing friend Mick, who has been struggling with his sleep for last month
2
or
months.
so, or maybe 6 weeks now. He just he's a 6 weeks old baby boy, very cute, and Mick has been juggling with all of this with so
Congratulations, Mick.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Yeah, he just turned 2 months old yesterday, so it's been about 2 months of complete exhaustion and complete exhilaration in equal amounts.
But it's worth it.
yeah.
Oh, worth it every second of the day.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thanks
Absolutely.
again, everyone, and look
Thank
forward
you.
to you to come back. And if you want to host this one of these sessions with us, you are more than welcome. Also, please spread out the words, because we want to listen voices from different parts of the world, different domains of the professions, and different educators and different learners. So we want to bring everyone on board in all these conversations. So thank you again, and
Thank
have a
you.
good
Thank
night,
you so
and
much.
good day.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay.